Hello, everybody. If you're watching this, you missed day one of our week 18 computer science principles lecture. Sorry about that. And we are wrapping up our year. We've only got 2 assignments left, so please take them seriously. We've got Intro to Object. I'm pushing this back to Wednesday, the 9th at midnight. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it because many people had some troubles, and I actually made a mistake on it. So I will describe my mistake. Hopefully you guys can correct it, and everyone can be happy. Assignment 11-0201 is our final assignment. Woo! You made it. That assignment is going to be due Friday the 11th. I will introduce and explain it today. If you have any questions, please make sure you email me or show up to my Wednesday office hours from 9 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. I'll see you there. All right, let's get to it. So first of all, let's talk about the object-oriented project, or just a project with objects in it. The thing that was messed up is if you are looking at the guide, if you open this after the day that I introduced it, I actually accidentally made changes to the original template that were not helpful. I was showing a student how to do something, and long story short, you now can get to the correct skeleton code. If you looked at it maybe a day ago, skeleton code was a little wonky and didn't have the right buttons, everything was messed up. So just to clarify, your project should have this skeleton code. It is correct now. You can open it through the assignment by clicking this link and you'll get the right stuff. And second, you are implementing 3 buttons: the Save Contact button, the Next button, and the Previous button. All 3 of these should work. So please make sure you have that implemented. The second thing I want to address is some people had a little bit of trouble with this project because you got a little confused about how to use index. So I want to clarify. Index is here to be a placeholder of which item you're looking at. It just keeps track of where you are in the list. You shouldn't be using index to add anything to your list because then you're adding at a random spot. Why would you do that? Just add to the end of your list. Use append item, or alternatively, you can just add a new object to the index that is corresponding to being at the end of your list. That's fine too. So if you're not sure how to do that, I'm going to give you some examples here real quick, just in case you need this. So there's 2 ways you can do that. Way 1, equally valid, both, doesn't matter which way you go with. You can make an object. I'll call it obj for short, object. Remember, to define an object, you use curly braces in JavaScript. And then to actually give this object some properties, you would say obj dot, and then whatever property you'd like to define. Please keep your properties the same name. So we'll use name, number, birthday, and picture. So dot name is equal to, and I would need to get the information. Where would I get it from? Well, I would use get text, and then the proper input field, which in this case would be the name input. Do the same for the rest of the info. I'm not going to show you the rest of it. You guys can figure it out. And then you would append the item. So you'd say append item to contacts list, and you would append your object. Easy. That's way 1. A second way that's equally valid that you might want to take a look at would be something like this. You could say contacts at contacts.length. So this is, remember, 1 outside the length of the list because you start counting at 0. So if I was to actually try to dereference this location, I would get an error. It'd be undefined. There's nothing there. However, if I set it equal to something, that's allowed. I'm going to set it equal to an empty object. Essentially what I've done is I've appended an empty object to my list. This is the same thing as saying append item, contacts, empty list, or sorry, empty object. Equally valid. So you can do either of these 2 versions, and that'll create a new slot in our contacts list. Then we'll say, let's access that slot. So contacts at, I missed an N here, my bad. Contacts at contacts.length -1. Notice here there is no -1 because you're extending the list. You're looking at the element past the end of it. Here, you just want to look at the element you just added. That element is now at the length -1 location. If you try to access the length location, you'll get an error. There's nothing there. Dot name equals dot dot dot. You guys can figure out how to do the rest of this, right? So these are the two ways. Both are equally valid. And then for the next and previous buttons, please do make sure that you look at index and check to see if it went too far outside the bounds of the array. So if you go past the last element in either direction, you need to wrap it around and reset index to point at the other end of the list. Hopefully you know how to do that. If not, come to my office hours. Happy to help you. So that concludes our overview of the objects assignment. Please make sure you finish that by Wednesday at midnight. Let's take a look at the next topic. So we are going to be looking at the most powerful business software, Excel. We normally would do this during our data unit, but we didn't have time, so we're coming back for it because I think this is a very, very useful skill. In fact, I have data to support my position. It's important in any job field, even if you don't end up doing programming. It makes you more employable, and people can get a lot of more money if they are proficient in Excel starting out, which is pretty exciting. Now here I have a link inside my PowerPoint to some tutorials on how to use Excel. Please check this out yourselves. This essentially shows you how to make the same data visualizations that we've done in code.org, but now using Google Sheets. That's what I'll recommend we use because everyone has access to it. If you have actual Excel on your computer, you can use that instead. Some of the operations will be a little different, but you can figure it out. So to make a chart, you simply hit Insert, Chart, and then you can create all kinds of charts. There's all kinds of other operations you can do, and you can edit your chart. So all of that information is up here. I'll let you explore that yourselves. I don't need to bore you and read that to you. Over here, there are some more interesting Excel skills that you can teach yourselves. I'm not going to require that you learn these. However, they could be really, really helpful to you in the future. So I recommend you look at these at least and see what they're all about. So this is optional, but highly recommended. What does your actual assignment involve? Well, the assignment itself, which is posted on my MCPS under week 18, right here, is to look at a data set that is publicly available from this link right here. You can pick whatever one you like. So let's say I want one about possums. So here's one about possums. You want to download the CSV, the comma separated values document, not the doc, because you can't do anything really productive with that. Once you download this, you're going to go ahead and drop it into your Google Drive. Simply drag and drop it in here. It'll show up as a CSV. Double click on it and select the Open as Google Sheets right here at the top. And it'll take a while to think about it, but eventually it'll convert it to the right file type. Next, I spent some time in class today explaining that you can do all kinds of interesting things by typing in equals and then creating a formula for your computer to follow. For instance, a popular one is sum. What sum will do is it'll add up several values, and you can click and drag on which ones you'd like to sum. Let's say I'd like to sum this whole row, please. Open parenthesis, and then select what you'd like to sum. I'd like to sum these values. You can also type them in manually if you prefer. Ta-da! Notice it'll ask me, do I want to autofill the rest of these in? What that'll do is it'll sum the rest of these rows. Pretty nifty, huh? Let's say I forget or don't do that. You can also click this little bottom box and use that, drag it down, and it'll recreate the same formula, but it'll adjust the values, as you can see up here in the top left, to match the specific row you're on. Very, very useful. Some other useful functions that you have access to, other than sum, would be average, or min, or max. There's also a if condition. So what if does is you send it 3 pieces of information, and it'll figure out some result based on that. So the first one is the comparison. So let's say I want to compare the tail length to the tail, are these just both tail lengths? Let's say to the foot length. So I'm going to say if tail length is more than the foot length, the first thing is the positive outcome, if this is true. So I'll say this is a long tail. And then after the second comma, you put in what you want to happen if it's not true. This is a short tail. So the cell will take on the value that corresponds to the outcome. And I'll go ahead and autofill. So it looks like tails are actually always longer than foot lengths, which makes sense. So there's all kinds of things you can do. Your assignment is to go ahead and create some kind of data visualization. You might want to use some of these formulas to find a more interesting trend than what's just available in the data itself, as it is presented to you raw. Create a chart. Remember to create a chart. You highlight what columns you'd like to work with. Let's say I work with these two. You hit Insert, Chart. You can select what kind of chart you would like it to be over here. Make it look nice. Make it tell a story. Paste it down here and answer these questions. If you need any help with that, please come to my office hours. I'd be delighted to assist you. Otherwise, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.